Hi, my name is Zachary Doherty, and today I'd like to talk about a few ways that you can expedite your data science workflow. The computer science principle, never repeat yourself, is not only applicable to the scripts that we generate, but also the environments that we create them in. Using two tools from Z Shell, aliases and functions, we can become happier and more efficient data scientists. So first of all, what is a Z Shell? Essentially, it's an improvement slash extension of the regular bash shell. And the ZSHRC file is a shell script located in your home directory, which allows you to update preferences and store your aliases and functions for later use. Anytime you make changes to this file, you can update it with the command source followed by the path to that file. After this presentation, I highly recommend downloading a plugin framework such as OhmyZSH, which will allow you to more easily understand these concepts and get support in that way. So, what is an alias? Essentially, I like to think about it as a cross between a function and a variable. We define them using this keyword alias followed by their name and store the value as a string, which represents a shell command, which can be cding into a directory or executing a script or any number of things. They're best used for tasks which don't require any complex logic or command line arguments. Now, those limitations can actually be solved by using a shell function. Shell functions are slightly more complicated than aliases and are written in the shell scripting language, which you will need some familiarity with in order to make the most out of these functions. You can actually use command line arguments in these functions, such as in this example above. Essentially, this function, example shell function, checks to see if the first command line argument is provided and either prints that there was none provided or shows what that actual command line argument is. Shell functions and aliases are both stored in your ZSHRC folder, and you need to update that file with source every time you add new things so that every interactive shell session will have the updates made for you. So a couple of examples that you could try for yourself are aliases proceeding into a different directory. I personally have defined one for every course we've had so far, so no matter where I am in my computer directory tree, I can always access the root file, the root directory of that courses at any time I need. A couple other ones are shortening the command for Jupyter Lab or even using the tree command on a specific folder. I use this so that I can see all the different credentials that I've already defined in my permissions folder so that I can easily know whether or not I need to download a new one or not. And finally, start PG, just for my sake, I don't like to remember to use the entire path to my Postgres server, so this allows me to, in one short line, easily start up my Postgres server when I need to. Here's an example of a shell function I defined, which will essentially output the data frame info for a given CSV file. If the first command line argument is the name of the CSV file, while the second one is essentially a Boolean saying whether or not I want to see the first row of that CSV file. So essentially the shell function is sort of like a wrapper for this Python file. And the benefit is that I don't have to go and find that Python file every time I want to execute it. All I have to do is use the shell function with the command line arguments that I want, and it will run the Python file for me. So here you can go ahead and see the output of the get CSV info shell function on the CSV file t.csv from my data directory folder. And it basically just prints out the data frame info. So today, I hope you all learned a lot about aliases and functions and how the Z shell can really give you quality of life improvements to make you a much happier and more efficient data scientist. There's a lot more to learn, especially with the Oh My Z Shell plugin framework, and I highly recommend that you all make the most of the Z shell so that all of your projects will be much easier and better.